Merry Christmas, everybody. Okay, I'm not gonna get distracted because this is actually supposed to be very long. Definitely going to be the longest one out of the three. So I probably should get started. But before I do, this one is going to be a little bit different because at the end specifically, um, at the end, I'm going to play the entire ending, like the scenes. I'm not going to talk over it. But after you see the ending and how everything ended, how, towards the end, I'll analyze the ending after that because I don't want to talk over the huge dramatic ending. You know what I mean? Okay, oh my god, I'm doing this all in one sitting. At it's 9:32 p.m. right now. What time do you think it's gonna be when I'm done? I'm guessing 10:40 p.m. So like an hour and 10. Okay, I'm doing this all in one go. I'm not even going to, you know, um, I'm gonna try to not fall asleep because I'm tired right now. I go to bed at this time. I go to bed at 9:30 p.m. all the time, but it's past my bedtime and I'm doing this stuff. Also, I'm really sad because today. Okay, this is the last thing and then I'll get started. Okay, today, I was watching this new season of the show I like, and I got a call from my friend because we were supposed to go bowling together with another group, and she called me and she was like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And she was like, "Are you coming?" And I'm like, "What?" And then she's like, "Dude, we're here. Where are you?" And I was like, "Oh my god, I thought we were hanging out tomorrow. I didn't know we were hanging out today." Literally, when I tell you my heart dropped, and then I couldn't go. So I am coping by making this video because I was looking forward to that. I I'm so mad. Worst thing ever. Always check your dates because I thought we were going to go bowling the 23rd, but it turns out they said it was the 22nd and I thought they said the 23rd. It's just awesome, isn't it? Okay, let's get started, shall we? Where did we leave off? We left off at the cliffhanger. Go watch part 2 if you haven't, because I'm not about to explain everything in part 2, okay? There's too much. I can't add that on. Otherwise, this video will be 2 hours long. So, it ended with, as you know, Henry broke in the house because he knew Evan went in there and he didn't want Evan to see Michael's dead body because he assumed Evan went in the house to go to the room where Jeremy would hang out when he lived with Henry before he died. So, that's that. Okay. Newsflash, Evan did not die. I was joking last video, he didn't die. I'm reading off a script, so I'm gonna sound like I'm reading off a script because I literally am reading off a script, so I'm reading off a script right now, so I'm gonna sound like I'm reading off a script right now, okay? Evan was sat at Michael's side, disappointed. He wasn't crying or anything, he was just sitting there. Henry was honestly pretty surprised because usually Evan was one to cry since he's a crybaby, but this time, Evan was not crying, obviously. He just was staring at Michael with a look of disappointment. Evan then saw Henry and stared at him without saying anything. Henry looked down and decided that it would be best he stopped lying to Evan, and it would be best if he just told the truth to him and was purely honest with him. So Henry told him about the fact that Michael wanted to give up, so Henry himself could take the lead in this journey. He stopped lying to Evan, stopped, saying, "Oh, I'm actually here to save you guys," which he said so Evan could trust him. Okay. Evan knew now what Henry was doing. He knew Evan what the hell? He wanted Evan to play dead, so Rosalie and William would assume he took his own life. Evan took his own life. So then Henry could eventually, secretly, end Evan off himself. Evan was not very trusting of Henry because he knew Henry wasn't a bad guy overall, but he knows some of his past. His past with working with William, and since Evan died before anyone else, like he was the first one to die in the bite of 83, he didn't know much about what happened in Henry and William's relationship. Like, okay, here's the thing. Elizabeth and Evan have had times, where they actually trust William more than Rosalie and Michael. That's because they were the first ones to die, so they weren't there to see and witness William when he was losing his sanity over on, like Rosalie and Michael were. Rosalie and Michael, everybody faced abuse in some way by William and the family, but Rosalie and Michael were there to, know what he was doing was bad because they were children. Evan and Elizabeth, they were children. They didn't realize what he was doing. But Rosalie and Michael were able to realize, he's abusive and stuff like that, so. Yeah, he didn't know to trust Henry with this whole thing of Michael taking his own life. Because, as I said, Evan knows about Henry, but he doesn't know what Henry really did after befriending William after Evan died. He doesn't know much about what happened between the relationship. He knows Henry hates William. He knows Henry's a better guy than William, but he doesn't know, who he is as a person. So he doesn't know if he's trustworthy. So he doesn't know if he should trust Henry saying with Michael is dead. Because Evan knew Michael as somebody who never gave up, but at the same time, Evan did not know about what happened with Sabrina when Michael accidentally stabbed Sabrina, so he didn't know what brought Michael up to the point of giving up. So this was looking pretty suspicious from Henry, because Evan knows Michael as somebody who never gives up, but he did. And Evan doesn't know the reason to it. So that makes it more confusing. So Evan just felt stuck. Nothing made sense to him. First Elizabeth, and now Michael. And Evan is far too scared to be next because he's very scared to death due to the fear of eternal darkness. He's very scared of eternal darkness. He always has like these thoughts like, wait, what if when I die, if I do die, I'll just face eternal darkness forever, right? He doesn't know for sure what comes after death, and he doesn't want to die and be left in pure darkness for eternity. That's his worst fear. Harry decided it would only make it worse if he were to pressure Evan into coming onto his side and to come and trust him, because if Henry were to pressure him like, no, stay on my side, believe me, it would sound like William, and William is a very controlling man, obviously, who would always pressure Evan into believing his side. He would always pressure him into being like, no, I'm right, you should trust me. And Henry, knowing this, decided to let Evan take time for himself for all of this, because he knew that if Henry were to leave Evan alone, rather than forcing and pressuring him, like William usually would do, Evan would feel more comfortable overall with Henry, because he knows Henry's not in any rush like William used to be. Henry told Evan that he will be in Jeremy's band for the most part. He told Evan that him, will be in Jeremy's band for the most part. So if Evan ever wanted to come to him, if he ever changed his mind, he'd be in there. Henry would be in there. Henry left eventually, and Evan stayed there with Michael, alone. Back to William and Rosalie. William was sitting in the same room with Rosalie, never leaving her side. He was going everywhere with her, making sure she didn't do anything to herself, and if she did, he'd just hit or become any form of physical with her. This was another part of why Henry did what he did with Evan. He knew that William would refuse to leave Rosalie's side, and knowing Rosalie, she wouldn't want to go back and see her quote-unquote dead son again, aka Evan. Meaning she wouldn't go back to the room Evan was found dead, meaning they both wouldn't go see Evan's body had disappeared. Let me repeat that because that's a lot. So William is like attached to Rosalie right now. He won't let go of her. He's not leaving her side because he doesn't want her to go off and kill herself, right? Otherwise, that's bad on his plan. Well, not plan, it's just he wants them all to stay alive. And with this, always being attached to Rosalie, if Rosalie is like basically in control of where he's going because he goes everywhere she goes, she's not going to go to Evan's room because she doesn't want to see Evan's dead body. Meaning, since Rosalie won't go in there, neither will William because he's always in watch of her. So they won't see that Evan's body had disappeared and that Evan had faked his death. William was holding onto Rosalie's hand, and with his strength, she is not able to break out of his freaking terrible grip. William would start conversations to attempt to distract her from the death of 2 children, along with Michael's disappearance, but that was not doing anything because it was literally the only thing she could think about right now. But he continues to talk anyway as a way to distract his own self from everything going on, just trying to keep his sanity in control. Let's recap what I just said. So yeah, William just continues to talk to Rosalie, and yeah, that's that. You remember that. I just said it. Okay. Cut back to Henry. Henry is with Charlie in the van, and although Henry knows he eventually needs to kill Charlie, things feel very off. Okay, I know somebody's gonna click off when they hear this word. Here's a psychology lesson. Guys, I swear, it's not bad, it's very short. Okay. So, sometimes when you lose someone you know in your life, and you weren't there, to see them when they died, like you weren't there, like, okay, let's say you have someone you know that turned out sick, and they died due to their sickness, and you weren't there to see it. You weren't there to see their sick body. You weren't there to see when they looked cold, skinny, and not like them. You picture them as the person you saw before they got sick. You know what I mean? Like, when someone tells you to think of that person that died, you think of an image of them when they were healthy, rather than the image when they died. If you were there to see them when they died, you would picture them as that picture, as them before they were about to die. Picture them as being sick. And it sucks because sometimes when people see them die and they get asked about them, they can only think about that picture of when they were sick before they died. That doesn't even look recognizable to when they were healthy. Okay. So for what I mean by this, I mean that Henry is still taking in everything about how Charlie looks. Because for years, Henry has been, thinking of all the possibilities of what Charlie could look like. Because he doesn't know how William killed her. He doesn't know how bad she was tortured by William. But it honestly felt really relieving for him to finally see her, since his mind won't ever wonder how she may look now. He was scared she'd have scars all over her because he didn't know how, as I said, he didn't know how William killed her. But since Charlie was William's first victim, she was only stabbed. She was not tortured like some of the other missing children were, like Cassidy and Susie. So he's a little relieved by that. By the way, I'm playing old clips right now because most of this video is going to be scenes during the ending parts, during the important parts. These are like just, leading up to the ending. The ending is going to be everything is just edited scenes, okay? I didn't want to voice over that stuff, so just wait until the end and you'll get fed. Fed. I wonder what you're going to get fed. Is it going to be good? We'll find out. Oh god. I'm kind of mean. Henry brings out a paper to sort out his plan. He brings Charlie on his lap so she can feel supported and comfort during this because she still feels a bit freaked out and confused about everything going on. So he thinks that if he keeps comfort in her, she will become more used and comfortable with him. Plus, he'd rather kill her when she is comfortable and feels safe with him than die when fearing him. Because she died by William in fear. Like, she died not a peaceful death, is what I'm trying to say. And Henry wants her to die a peaceful death this time. He doesn't want to kill her off when she's all freaked out. Okay. He thinks first about Evan. He thinks about how Evan is a kid, and he is a kid very heavily scared of the dark due to his past traumas. Henry knows this is not Evan's fault, and he doesn't want Evan to die in fear either. But knowing Evan, he knows he will most likely eventually realize that dying is the best option in this situation. Nothing can go back to the same as it was before. He remembers how he told Evan if Evan wanted to meet up with him again, he must meet him up at the van. Henry knows he will be out, most likely. Henry knows he'll be out of the van, but he didn't want to tell Evan he'd be out of the van to the Afton's house, most likely. Otherwise, William and Rosalie would see him when they think he's actually dead. He didn't want Evan to meet him up at the Afton's house, so that's why he told Evan, meet me up at the van. So, because of this, Henry puts an extra syringe on his desk and puts a note that says, use this if you make the decision. I'm somewhere else right now. So Henry now is focusing on laying out the plan for action. First, he needs to find Cassidy. He needs to know how Cassidy is feeling at the moment, since she is in control of what goes on with William. Because Cassidy is what helps Henry figure out what direction he must go in order to do this whole thing. If Cassidy is not in control, he needs to do something else. If Cassidy is in control, he needs to think of something else, you know? So Henry remembers the whole thing with the spring bonnie hat and how all of the missing children get triggered once they see it and assume it is William. If you remember in the last episode, he tried on the hat. Fritz came to him, sliced his face because he thought he was William, until he eventually revealed, no, I'm just Henry. I'm not here to threaten you. So Henry wonders that if he were to wear that hat and do something bad, if she'd mistake him for William and hurt Henry thinking it is William. I'll repeat that because it's a bit confusing. He thinks if he wears the spring bonnie hat, which the missing children think are William immediately, that's their first reaction when seeing the spring bonnie hat, he will try to do something bad that would be considered bad in Cassidy's eyes, to the point where Cassidy would hurt so-called William. And if Henry wears that hat, and Cassidy thinks that Henry is William because of that hat, and Henry does something bad, Henry can possibly get hurt by Cassidy, and that would prove that Cassidy is still in control and still keeping watch. Okay, let's go. So yeah, as I said, if Henry is not hurt, then Cassidy is not controlled, and if he is hurt, then Cassidy is in control. And if she does not hurt him, it is most likely due to the fact that she had seen her father. And she is somewhere else right now because of her father. He mainly wants to test this out, since last episode, I don't know if I'll call it, I'll just say episode. Last episode, William did not get hurt previously when he was physically hurting Rosalie. You remember when he was like pushing her to the floor last video? He was not hurt by Cassidy, but he should have been. So Henry wanted to test if Cassidy was still here, because William was not getting hurt, which was odd. Charlie is still on Henry's lap, and he feels bad for leaving her, since she was just getting comfortable with him, just feeling comforted by him, but he knows he has to. So he carries Charlie and brings her back to the little bed Jeremy used to sleep on, and set her down to get comfortable there. He gave her his top hat. Oh, so cute. Just wait. He gave her his top hat to sleep with since he'd be gone, and headed back to the FNAF 1 building. Once Henry arrived at the building, he snuck in quietly as to make sure the children of the FNAF 1 building do not hear him, since he does not want them to see him with a mask on. Once Henry arrived at the building, he snuck in quietly as to make sure the children of the FNAF 1 building do not hear him, since he does not want them to see him with the mask on. Henry put the mask on and searched for a way to do something Cassidy would dislike and would see as something willing to get William hurt. So-called William, but it's actually Henry. Henry had an idea. He knew Cassidy would hate it, but it was also doing something good at the same time. He took a match that Michael had, which he originally wanted to use to burn the Afton's house, but Henry took them from him after he died, and he used it to burn the FNAF 1 building, with the possibility of melting the remnant off the missing children's souls inside the FNAF 1 building. Nothing happened to Henry when he did this, which should have happened, because you're burning a building. Yes, freeing the souls is a good thing, but later on I'll explain why Cassidy sees it as a bad thing. Or I don't know if I already explained it. I'm pretty sure I did say a little part about how Cassidy wants them to stay alive, so that William um, is less, like, he should feel more threatened because there's more missing children that could possibly hurt him. So she feels that, if you take them away, it's just helping William more because now it's only Cassidy that will be able to hurt him and not all of the other children. Okay. Henry quickly took off the mask because if he were to keep it on with the heat, he could possibly get spring locked. So it was confirmed now. Cassidy is not watching. Henry tried to get out of the building as quick as possible since he does not want his own remnant to melt, but he also wanted to make sure all of the children in the building were there and getting the remnant melted off. He climbed up the vent and he was trying to avoid the fire from below. He searched throughout the vents, he counted the souls, he saw Fritz, Gabriel, Jeremy, but Susie was missing. He saw Fritz telling Gabriel and Jeremy to stay calm and that this is what Henry is doing for them to free them. So Henry does not worry about the three going somewhere else because he knows they know they're okay and that this is a good thing for them. So Henry felt happy he was able to at least free them three. He was able to at least free them. But Susie, she's not there. Henry then remembers how Susie didn't show up that time he called Jeremy's name in the last episode. Susie is missing and he doesn't know where, so he searches around while in the vent to possibly find some sort of idea of where she could have gone because he knows Cassidy wouldn't be the type to just let her go free considering how dedicated Cassidy is to make sure they're still alive to take down William whenever given the chance since, to their knowledge, nobody else was trying besides them to take down William because they haven't seen everything Michael was doing, trying to do, like they haven't seen what Michael was trying to do to William since they were stuck in the FNAF 1 building. They couldn't see that Michael hated William just as much as they did, wanted to take them down, so they thought everything was just on them. Henry then remembers the relationship Susie had with Jeremy. He remembers how, as Evan said previously, Jeremy said Evan reminded him of Susie. Evan being a kid who loved Jeremy very much must also mean that Susie had loved Jeremy very much, just like Evan. She is definitely dedicated to find him again, dedicated to find her brother again. But he knows she's probably in a loop because she is not aware that Jeremy is dead and he's nothing but bones right now. He's gone. Henry tried to escape the FNAF 1 building, but Henry was struggling. The vent was getting tight, and the sweat he was from the heat was causing it was making it harder to keep grip of the vent and to push through. So it was getting hot, but he needed to escape the vent as quick as possible because he couldn't have his remnant melting. So he took the knife he previously took from Cassidy's father last episode. Remember, he took one big knife, one small knife. He took the small knife, to unscrew the vent, and he finally fell through to the ground. He felt himself getting weaker slowly, though. His remnant was slowly melting. He felt it melting, and he was getting weaker. He limped to the exit, and once he was outside, he fell to the floor. He was struggling to keep himself up and struggling to keep himself strong. He was outside the pizzeria's burning building on the floor, and he felt too weak to make it to the van himself. He couldn't bring himself up, so he tried cutting his arm as a motivation to get up. That didn't work. It just made it worse. Usually that'd be a motivation for him. He's really weird. So sometimes he'd just poke his arm and then be like, "Wow, I need a lock in." But it didn't work this time. You know why? Because he is physically too weak. It's not a mental thing. It's not something for mental motivation. It's actually he needs to get up, but he can't. He started to crawl, trying to make it to the van, even with how weak he was. But he was also trying not to get caught by anybody. He wasn't just weak because of the remnant, though. He was weak because he also had, burn marks, he had scars, everything, it was going terrible for him. So, back in the van with Charlie, Charlie had been woken up by loud noises. Charlie gets up, and she sees a kid going through the stuff. That kid being Susie. But Charlie doesn't know who Susie is. Charlie and Susie are not close. So Charlie just stares, and she feels kind of scared since it's not Henry. She doesn't recognize this person, so she feels as if they are a threat. Susie does not see Charlie yet. She is too focused on going through Jeremy's stuff. It turns out Susie has snuck into Jeremy's van for years, and she knew where Jeremy's van was located. And had, at times, went over it, too, in hopes of finding Jeremy, as she is not aware that he is dead yet. Susie then finds the note Henry wrote out. It says, use this if you make the decision. I'm somewhere else right now. But it doesn't say by Henry. Because Evan knew. He assumed Evan would see it when he came by, but so he didn't think he'd need to write his name, but turns out it's Susie. So Susie assumes this note is by Jeremy, because who else could it be by? Susie doesn't understand what the syringe is for, but she takes it with her, and now she is in the van, patiently waiting for Jeremy to arrive back, wondering why he wants her to have the syringe. But then Susie looks over and sees Charlie in the corner. Susie is confused, but Susie seems to not be able to talk. She isn't really the talking type. This is because when William killed her, he was the worst to Cassidy and Susie. They were tortured the worst. Susie got her mouth cut up, she had her jaw broken, and her hands were cut off. Cassidy is worse, so just imagine Cassidy. I'll get to that soon. He went bonkers, so. No. Charlie is waiting for Henry. She doesn't know who or what Susie wants, so she just stays waiting for Henry to come back, and Susie stays waiting for Jeremy to come back. Even though he won't because he's dead. Henry is struggling to crawl. Oh my god, this is a long paragraph. Oh my god. You guys should see the notes app. I'm probably going to play a clip of me scrolling through the notes app so you see how much I need to read. My throat is hurting so bad. I'm doing this in one sitting. It is 10:11 p.m. I started this at 9:30. Oh my god. Okay. I'm not even halfway through. Oh my god, this is going to go on until 12. Okay. Henry is struggling to crawl back to the van. He's starting to get weaker as he gets cuts by sticks on the floor and hurting himself by dragging himself on the concrete. He doesn't want to assume he is dying just yet, though. He needs someone to help him. He needs a doctor. He needs Cassidy's father, who is a doctor. But he thinks it is too risky because Henry had already left a note to Cassidy's father saying he is leaving forever and leaving him with Sabrina. So it'd be weird to just pop up to his house after doing that and robbing his knives. Remember, he robbed his knives. But he needed to because Henry couldn't die. He couldn't let down Michael and let down the Athen family and let down his own daughter. So Henry dragged himself to the house of Cassidy's father, Braden, despite the risk it might take on the relationship between them, along with Cassidy's current state of seeing her father. Cassidy's father couldn't do anything about the remnant. Henry knew that, but Henry knew he needed at least his burns and cut damage to be healed. He didn't care that Cassidy's father thought. He didn't care what Cassidy's father would think anymore, or if he'd be mad about Henry's sudden appearance. Henry wasn't like Michael, who'd think about how the person will feel in times where he needed to get things done as an emergency, like right now. Like, you know, Michael would be like, oh, what would he think? Oh, what would they think? Shut up, dude. You're gonna die in, like, 2 days. Henry has already gone so far, so he doesn't want to die, you know? He's desperate right now. And William doesn't even suspect a thing of Henry yet, so everything's going according to his plan right now. Everything goes according to plan. You know that audio? I hate that audio. It's funny, but, like, cringy. I don't know. Okay. He knocks on the door for Braden and waits for a bit. Then Braden answers. Braden looks down and he sees Henry on his damn knees because, you know, he's hurt. So it's kind of a funny way to answer the door, but Henry apologizes for like 5 seconds before letting himself in. He doesn't even let Braden ask questions. He just crawls himself inside the house without having permission. He looks beaten up, cut up, and burned up, and was asking Braden to help him out with this, and it is an emergency. Of course, Braden denies, telling him to give him answers before he does anything to help him. And Henry just gives him the line, your daughter is on the line. Obviously, Braden is insanely confused. He doesn't understand. He believed Cassidy was dead forever and never coming back, so what does he mean by this? Henry said no more questions and to just help him quick. So as Braden quickly helped his wounds, trying to make him at least a little more stronger, Henry was at thought. Where was Sabrina? Because he left Sabrina with him. Was she okay? So he asked Braden about her and if she is okay. Braden then says he doesn't know. She hasn't been waking up, but she is not dead. It's kind of confusing. Henry tries to stop thinking about Sabrina, and he can't be thinking about things outside of the plan, like Mike when he'd get distracted with other things. That would be bad. So Cassidy's father bandaged him up, and once he was done, he was waiting for answers. Henry lied, saying he was doing an investigation to find who was behind the disappearance of his daughter and the kids. The missing children. Who's behind all of that? He knows it's William, but he's not going to say that. Brandon was confused because the person behind the missing children's is 100% dead at this point, or so he thought. He doesn't know he's immortal. Why is he doing this so late? But Henry leaves after being taken care of and shuts the door. Brandon decides that if Sabrina were to wake up, he'd ask her if he knows anything about Henry and what this whole helping missing children thing is about. Okay. Henry is still pretty weak, but he can walk better now. He walks to the Afton's house because he had an idea of how to find Cassidy. He needed to destroy the cameras inside of the Afton's house. Since she is not paying attention to them right now, Cassidy's not paying attention. If Henry were to destroy the cameras and she were to look back, Cassidy, she might assume that William was the one who did it, and might even take a visit to William, which is where Henry can then talk to Cassidy and sort things out with her. Henry knows he might need to look for Susie, but reminder, he doesn't know Susie is with Charlie, so yeah. He thinks it would be best to just find Cassidy first, talk to her, then maybe find Susie after. Okay. Oh god, we're getting closer to a death, guys. We're getting closer. Uh-oh, who do you think it's gonna be? I win. William is holding Rosalie's hand, talking to her about so many things. He won't shut up because, he wants to distract her, and he wants to talk as much as he can to distract his own self from everything going on. But Rosalie is a way for him to disconnect from the real world, so Rosalie is just overwhelmed. And she is overwhelmed with grief and with fear of William on her all day. She is scared that William will literally be with her for eternity. She is stuck with him forever, and she feels as if she cannot seek any help because she feels useless. She doesn't know where Michael is and if he'll come back, so she's terrified. Henry knows this is happening, and it only helps with his own plan more. He can easily sneak in through the already open window from Evan's bedroom, and he grabs the bigger knife he grabbed from Cassidy's father a while back and heads to the main office with the cameras that William originally used when he was in control. But they're now in control by Cassidy, or were, because Cassidy's not watching anymore. He stabs all of the screens with the big knife until they all break, and they were all broken now. He needed to find the other cameras, since he knows there are more, so he seeks to William's secret room, and it smelled absolutely terrible. So many people died in there, it's disgusting. He sees the decomposed body of William's father, which he killed a year ago. It smells butt cheeks, dude. But he broke all the cameras that were in that room, too. He went through every room, and the only room left was the room with William and Rosalie, where they were in right now. William couldn't hear Henry and everything he was doing due to how focused he was on getting Rosalie's attention and having her full attention on him and him only. Just distracting her from suicide. So Henry remembered that they do not know yet that Michael is dead. They both do not know Michael's dead. He's just missing to them. So Henry goes to the front entrance and loudly opens the door as to pretend if Michael were to have been the one stepping in. William hears this and grabs Rosalie's arm and heads to the door, babbling about how she's dumb for thinking Michael was gone forever when he was back already, as he thought. Henry quickly dashed to the room they were just in and broke the cameras inside of there. Then he hid behind a couch, waiting for any sign of Cassidy to come back. If she were to notice the cameras were broken, she'd most likely assume it was William who did it and take a visit. Henry was noticing William was losing his mind. He was losing his sanity, but this was a good thing. William was growing so much more anxious, he couldn't even control himself to think on how to help his own situation. He was becoming overwhelmed. Very overwhelmed. Henry, despite being weaker, had a bigger advantage to win this. He had control of himself and his own mind. William was losing control and was not in control of his own mind like Henry was. William then spotted the broken cameras. This only made William feel more anxious, as if Cassidy was coming for him. He held Rosalie closer to him, making sure she stays with him. It was because, like, at this point, becoming obsessive behavior. Last series, he didn't care if they die because he knew he'd be able to take control, just like Cassidy. But now he can't take control. Everything is controlled by Cassidy right now. So he's scared. Uh-oh. Guys. Okay. I'm gonna talk and then I'm gonna play the part, okay? And then I'll analyze it after. Okay. Henry, wanting to scare William more, opened the door from one of the rooms, trying to make William think as if someone like Cassidy had entered the room. Rosalie tells William that if it is Cassidy and she sees how he is gripping onto Rosalie, William could possibly get in trouble. So William was losing his mind. He was feeling desperate. He couldn't even think straight anymore. So he took Rosalie and took her arm. He already had remnant in him, but he wanted more of it. He craved more of it. He knew he needed the family alive to keep himself sane, but he believed his creation of remnant was already enough to keep him sane. He thought it kept him more sane, actually. He just needed his own creation remnant. He just needed that to feel better. It was like a drug. He was obsessed with it. But he couldn't handle watching Rosalie all day anymore. It was getting stressful. Okay, now I'm gonna play what happens, okay? And after that, I will analyze it and we'll move on. you know what? I'm just gonna get to analyzing. I'm not even gonna talk about that. So yeah, you saw. Um, First of all, before this whole thing happened, William took Rosalie to another room, and Henry crawled to watch behind. Um, and William was telling Rosalie, she should consider taking herself, like killing herself, just so they can get this over with. But Rosalie is, she's kind of cuckoo because of the whole thing with her kids, and especially the fact that she needs to see her kids die before her. She saw Elizabeth Evan die before her, and she doesn't even know where Michael is right now. But Michael's not there. So she assumes that Michael's just like, she doesn't even know if he's dead right now, and she's just going cuckoo about it. And she's like, talking about her whole life story about with William and how her whole life has been surrounded around William, and now she's finally accepting that she is nothing. Um, she doesn't have a lot of personality of herself, or she thinks this. It's not really that true, but she just believes it. William takes the axe as a reference to when she died, when she got murdered by William originally. He decapitated her with the axe. So he took the axe and said, "You want to talk about the past? We'll do that." And had the axe representing the past of when he murdered her. And then he kissed her. He kissed her as a reference to the last series I made. I can't remember exactly what happened, but I do remember Rosalie asked for one last kiss because she never felt affection from William, and she wanted to at least feel affection before she died. And William didn't do that last series, but now he did because she finally realizes how useless she is. Or I wouldn't say, I mean, she had some use, but she doesn't believe that. So then you saw what happened. He kissed her. He didn't enjoy it, but it was just like to show her that he won. He won against her, and she is useless. She lost. She didn't seek any justice for herself, and William won everything. Then William killed her. He decapitated her. The remnant spilled out of her freaking body when he did that, so he didn't need a syringe. He just decapitated her, and the remnant came out. I didn't show this part because I didn't make it, but after William killed her, Henry is watching. He was watching all of this when it happened. He is very sad that. I'm sorry, I'm yelling too much, by the way. Henry is sad that this is the way Rosalie went out, but it needed to happen eventually, and he didn't want Rosalie's death to be this brutal, but it needed to happen somehow, and Henry couldn't do anything about it. He wasn't going to bring her back and kill her, you know what I mean? That's stupid. But William took her body and put her body in a bag and threw it in a closet and closed it. Now, William collected the remnant from her that spilled out before it could get on the floor and he wouldn't be able to collect it. He took it and he had he had a syringe in his pocket. He had that syringe and he collected the remnant. By the way, he didn't tell her he had a syringe because he low-key did want to kill her. So she kind of didn't have or I don't know anything. Okay. So now William had her remnant and he syringed it into himself. It is a way for him to cope. Remnant is a way for him to cope and believe that he is stronger, he's smarter in every way over everyone now. He he couldn't fear anybody coming his way, even if his Cassidy. He was screaming in pain. Well, not screaming, but like grunting, like in pain because hello, that's gonna hurt like hell. It stings. That is no bueno. But he does it because he's crazy and he's like a drug addict when it comes to remnant. But he got over it eventually. Henry, though, wants to take Rosalie's body out the closet and bring her somewhere else because he feels that if he were to just let William leave her in the closet where she is in right now, William would eventually maybe want her back, and he can easily take some remnant from himself and give it to her since William has more remnant than he needs. He can easily hand some over to her, hand her a good amount of it. He knows this is likely William's plan if anything were to go wrong, so Henry tries to think of another way to bring William's attention somewhere else. Henry grabbed the matches he had in his pocket. Yeah, that Michael originally bought, but Henry took for himself, and he took it from Michael after he died. And he threw one match. It wasn't lit though. He just threw a non-lit match. It wasn't on fire. He threw one onto the floor, so William could hear the noise. He went to investigate. William went to investigate. Henry quickly got up and tried to look for the body of Rosalie inside the closet. As he opens the closet, he felt a tap on his shoulder. Turned around. Of course, it was William. God damn it. Henry jolts, trying to hide any sign of him being weaker than William. But William already can tell. He can already tell he's weak. He figured Henry was behind this once he saw the knife plunged onto the cameras. He already figured out Henry was probably behind this when he saw the cameras were broken. William knew that Cassidy hated knives, as William used a knife to torture her when she died. Now let's get to this. Cassidy died by her limbs getting sliced off. He would stab her, of course, but he also would cut her limbs off, so it was terrible. She hates knives. She hates anything associated with knives. She does not like that stuff. That's why she's all about fire and burning. She doesn't want knives. You know. William caught Henry in the act and wanted immediate answers. Why was Henry tricking him? Why did Henry lie to him about the whole Elizabeth thing, in the last video? And how did he get Cassidy to stop watching on him? Because Cassidy was suddenly not watching William and it was confusing him. Henry was frightened because if he could not get out of this, he could not save his daughter along with Susie. He could not, and Evan. He could not accomplish saving everyone. As I said, let alone Evan and where he is right now. Where he doesn't know where he is right now. Henry at this point just wanted to get to his daughter. He was telling William he'd leave him alone. Henry didn't believe what he was saying, but he wasn't prepared for this to happen. He just wants to get to his daughter. So William grabbed him, pushed him, because he knew he was bullshitting. He was the cause of everything that was happening right now. William he just knew it. But when William threw Henry, William got his hand broken. Only one person can just do that. He randomly got his hand broken. Cassidy did it. She was the only one who could do that right now. But how? The cameras were broken. So this must mean that Cassidy was near them and watching them in person. Henry assumed Cassidy did this to protect Henry simply because of his connections with her father, with Brayden. Cassidy was so driven to her father and wanting to reunite with him, she was only wanting that. So, of course, she'd want to protect Henry. William was he was a big baby. He was groaning in pain and was in the floor trying to hold himself together over a broken hand. Like, are you dead us? You got spring locked and you're acting like this is a big deal. Henry quickly took Rosalie's body, her bag with her body in it, and he ran out the house. William was not alone in the house, just in pure pain. Henry tried his best to arrive at the van, and he finally did, but he was outside the van. He took a match and looked for a place to burn her body, but instead he saw a lake. So he instead threw Rosalie's dead body in the lake and let her body just decompose there. He walked back to the van, now with Rosalie out of the picture. He thought Charlie was sleeping. He didn't know she was awake. So he tried entering slowly, and as he entered in, he sees someone else. As you know, it is Susie, waiting. He wonders why Susie is there and what she is doing here, and why she wasn't in the FNAF 1 building. He then sees her holding something in her hand. It is, first of all, the syringe, of course, and one of Jeremy's jackets. She is waiting for Jeremy. He looks over and sees Charlie, sitting there waiting for Henry. Charlie got up and hugged Henry's legs. Henry didn't know how to tell Susie that Jeremy was gone, Jeremy was dead, and he needed to take her life to free her. He was scared to take her life in front of Charlie, though, so he told Charlie to get under the bed covers until he says to come out. So Charlie did as told. Henry took Susie outside and he sit her down. He talked to her about Jeremy. For a certain someone requested, I put some scenes of Jeremy and all blah blah blah, just him thinking of Susie when he was around. So you get some Jeremy content. But yeah, he talked to her about Jeremy, telling her about how much Jeremy missed her, and he'd look at pictures of her. Jeremy would always look at pictures of Susie, waiting for the day he could see Susie again. He would have been happy. Jeremy would have been very happy if he saw Susie like Henry was right now. But then he broke the news to Susie and told her that Jeremy was dead. Susie accepted to let herself go, just wanting to go to her big brother again. So she hugged Henry as he killed her off, and now all of the missing children were dead besides Cassidy. So now all that were left standing were Evan, William, Charlie, Cassidy, and Henry. Okay, I have a stuffy nose. I don't know why. It's so gross. I think it's bad allergies. I've been having bad allergies all day. I don't know what it is. So, as Henry was heading back to the van after, taking Susie's life, he heard something. Someone was coming by. He still had Susie with him, and she was dead. He was about to throw her in the lake like he did with Rosalie, and he was scared if it was somebody he didn't know just seeing him with a dead body. But it turned out to be Evan. Evan was there and he came back. He listened to when Henry told him to meet him up at the van. And Henry looked at him and set Susie's body down, wondering why Evan came back. He expected it, but he wanted to know the reason as to why he came back. Why did you come back? Evan said he wants to help Henry. He didn't know what he may need help with, but he just wanted to help Henry in some way. He wanted to feel useful somehow. He's always been seen as a useless kid. Even when he faked his death, William literally looked at him and just said, "You useless piece of shit," and then left the room. He's always been seen as a useless kid. He doesn't want to die feeling like a useless kid who never did anything. Henry sighed, knowing this could be a risk, but he didn't want him to die feeling useless, because Henry knew how that felt. Before Henry wanted to take his own life, he felt absolutely useless and very hopeless. It was a terrible feeling. When he was about to kill himself, he felt very useless and hopeless. It was terrible. He understands how Evan feels, and he knows William can't spot Evan since he believes Evan is dead, so this could be a risk because he can't let William spot him. So Henry decides it would be a good idea if Evan were to be the one communicating with the missing children, while Henry focuses on revenge for William. He knows William will try anything to take down Cassidy and himself, and that's his new goal after he caught Henry in the act. William's new goal is he wants to make sure whatever Henry's plan is does not succeed. Henry took Evan up to the van and introduced him to Charlie. So Henry kissed Charlie goodbye and told Evan to watch over her. Henry wanted to die with Charlie. He wanted to die with Charlie to make up for when he let Charlie die alone when getting murdered by William, without him being there for her. He didn't want her to die alone anymore. Evan agreed and stayed with her. Henry gave him the small knife he previously had and left. This was in case anything bad were to happen, just as a self-defense for Evan. Okay, next part is pretty long. It's a very long part. One half I'm going to be talking like I am right now, and the other half is going to be all just scenes. Henry is a little nervous, but at the same time he knows he is protected. Cassidy protected him after all, so nothing can really hurt him, right? He heads to William and stands right where he is on the floor. When he broke his hand, he's on the floor. William looks up and sees the matches on Henry's hand. Henry looks down at him and tells him that he will burn the house. He will burn the Aftons' house, and William must let his life go. William cannot let himself live on. Henry says this is something William must consider. Henry did this to piss William off, though. He knew William wouldn't do this because William, being William, is too scared to die. He doesn't want to die. So then Henry lights a match, and he throws the match on the floor. The Aftons' house is now burning down. William freaks out and breaks out of the house. He won't accept dying. He does not want to die. So he breaks out the house, but his hand in pain overall from the large amounts of remnant is making him hard to keep himself up and strong like he wants to. His remnant slowly was melting due to the fire, but he makes it out in time before the melting becomes alarming because William has more remnant than, he needs. So he's not really scared about a little bit of melting. It doesn't affect him. Like with Henry. William doesn't know where else to go, but he remembers he has the keys to Jeremy's van in his pocket. So he takes the keys out and heads to the van. He opens the van and finds Evan and Charlie. He hit the damn jackpot. He found Evan and Charlie. First of all, he thought Evan was dead. And now Charlie? Okay, so this was just proving Henry is a total liar, deep shit, and he has definitely something to do with this. Because Charlie's there, and Charlie and Henry, you know, they're family. And Evan's with Charlie, meaning Evan was with Henry. They teamed up. Oh wow, they faked a death. Huh. Henry caught up to William and tried to protect them both, especially his daughter, but it was too late. William is stronger than Henry in pretty much every aspect at this moment, so he was very easily out the van without Henry stopping him. William is trying to avoid hurting Henry though, because if he hurts Henry, he will possibly get hurt by Cassidy if he does. But he can hurt anyone else without getting at risk with Cassidy, meaning he can hurt Charlie. He doesn't mess with Evan right now because that's for later. Henry needs Cassidy's help, but she is too focused on her father. Cassidy is too focused on her father, and oh my god. Henry tries talking to Cassidy, not even knowing where she may be. He's like yelling across the room, but she was right behind him. Oh, like he looked behind him, and Cassidy was right there after he was calling for her. It turns out she's been following them this whole entire time, ever since the mention of her father. Henry feels a bit bad because she looks scared and very sad. She misses her father, she just wants her father, and Henry tried to tell her that he feels how she feels. He felt that way with his daughter when she was taken away from him, from William, for many years. Henry can connect with Cassidy's feelings, but now Cassidy wants to know where her father is. Henry tells Cassidy the directions to her father and tells her that she must let go of the whole controlling system. Like being in control of everyone's system. That is something that is driving William crazy. That is one of the things that is driving William crazy right now, is the whole controlling system. Knowing that he is being watched is driving him insane. Cassidy can trust Henry though, because she's been watching this entire time. She knows he's smart. She knows he has good intentions. So she lets go of this whole controlling thing. So now, everything is up to them. Nobody's in control. It's just free will now. So when Cassidy left, Evan left out of hiding because he was hiding the entire time in the van when they were inside there because he was scared of Cassidy and he saw Cassidy before Henry did, so he hid in the van. He didn't want Cassidy to see him. Evan went with Henry to go follow wherever William was going. William was inside of Henry's house, and he went in by the window. Henry previously broke in last video to go to Evan. William just stayed with Charlie. He tried making Charlie trust him, but Charlie feels he is familiar in all the worst way possible. She is scared. Henry and Evan find him, and Henry tells Evan to stay behind in another room, just to stay as backup if Henry may need help. So he tells Evan to find any room in the house, and Evan chooses to hide inside the room with Michael, mainly due to the bad smell, and William might not want to go in a room with a bad smell. But Evan didn't tell Henry he was going to hide there. Henry didn't know Evan chose to hide in that room. William didn't notice the rotting smell of Michael's dead body yet, so he didn't even think about that room that much. Henry went over to the room of Michael's dead body and took out some stuff he left inside of Michael's scooped stomach. I didn't talk about this because I was waiting for this part, but after Michael died, Henry put in some weapons inside of Michael, inside of his scooped stomach. He hid them there. They were weapons in case he ever came back, because if you remember, he said, I don't need to come here again. I'm not going to come in here again. I'm not going to come in this house again. So he hid weapons in there in case he didn't come back, because if he did come back in the house, it was because his plan failed, and he may need emergency weapons. So he sneaks in Michael's stomach, grabs some weapons, and in that stomach, he kept a Glock, a gun, and another syringe in there. He took them out of Michael's corpse and locked the door so William couldn't enter. Evan assumed Henry knew he was hiding in the room with Michael, so he stayed calm that the door was locked, but No, Henry didn't know he was hidden in there, so he locked the door. But Evan thinks he knew, so he's not screaming for help. It's a mess. So now, okay, now it is just Henry, William, and Charlie. This is the part that is the scene. It's a pretty big scene. It's a little fight scene, you know. Not a little one. It's a pretty big one. Uh, I was sad making this. Oh God, I'm sorry, y'all. You can get through it, okay? Well, oh God. And I'll analyze it after, so things will make more sense, okay? Go ahead and watch and have fun, okay? Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs! That was different. So yeah, you saw Henry took the gun and shot William in the head, and William dropped Charlie and fell to the floor. And as Henry stepped closer, William quickly grabbed Henry by the feet and hit him on the floor, grabbing his gun and shooting Henry multiple times. And now with Henry being weak, William was able to grab Charlie since he got shot up, so he couldn't bring himself up. He got, first of all, his remnant's terrible, right? It was half melted when he went in the FNAF 1 building, and now he got shot, and, he's just in pain. And he starts to shoot Charlie in front of Henry, knowing that Henry can't do anything about it because Henry is very weak, and he can't get up, he can't attack, he can't do anything. William was purposely torturing Charlie in front of Henry to make sure he witnessed Charlie going through a lot of pain. He does not have a heart, dude. He is terrible. Henry couldn't get himself up to help Charlie. He was, as I said, too weak, and he started to slowly pass out. And when he did, William picked up Henry, or not picked up, he just dragged him. He dragged Henry and told him where Cassidy was before he fully passed out. Henry refused to respond, so William then took Henry and Charlie inside of the room where Michael was rotting inside of. William saw Michael's dead body because he originally didn't know Michael died, but now he knows. And he didn't care, he just laughed. He knew he won, and he knew Michael gave up. Therefore, William won, Michael lost. And this is the part where I stopped making this scene, but so this is just continuing after what you saw. William, before leaving, he wanted to anger Henry a little more for when he woke up, since he was passed out right now. So he went over to Charlie and broke her arm. And after that, he left. He just wanted to make her feel a little bit more pain. So then Henry would need to deal with that forever. He'd need to deal with seeing Charlie in pain, and he can't do anything about it because he can't bring himself up. He has nothing to free Charlie or himself. It's just him, Michael's dead corpse, and Charlie in there. And so now, William left them alone. But Evan was still in the room. He was still in the room where Michael was, where everybody was at right now. So now William left them alone. Evan was hiding in the same room, and he instantly ran to help Charlie once William left the room because he didn't want William to spot him because William still thinks Evan is dead. Henry was laid on the floor. He was passed out now. He couldn't wake up. And Evan was scared because he didn't know if Henry was even alive. We don't know if Henry's alive. Oh god, that is not fun, is it? I am very sorry. Oh god. But it's not over yet. We still have a lot more to the ending. This is not the ending. There is a lot to get through. This video is really long. William went back to the Aftons' house. Everything was burning, but not all of the rooms were burnt yet. There were still some rooms that have not yet caught on fire, so he went inside, running, trying to avoid the fire. But he wasn't that scared because he had more remnant than anyone else really, because he had injected a lot of remnant into him. He made it to the rooms where the cameras were broken, and he tried to fix them. He could fix them. He knew how to fix these type of things, and he actually fixed it before the fire could reach that room. Now, with these cameras, William can look. He's in control now. That's great, right? William's in control again, just like last time. He was now in control of everyone and everything, and he saw in the cameras Cassidy was walking in the woods alone. She was alone walking, and he wanted to know where Cassidy was going until he remembered Elizabeth was inside of the building. She was still inside of the Afton family's house. And he went in the room, he left her because that room still has not caught on fire. That room didn't catch on fire. He picked her up because he didn't want the rest of her remnant that he left in her to melt. He leaves the Aftons' house as it burns and goes back outside. William leaves Jeremy's van and he opens it with the keys he had in his pockets. He brings Elizabeth inside of there, rips out all of the pictures of Jeremy inside of the van and throws them in the garbage. This was William's van now, it wasn't Jeremy's anymore. So now with Elizabeth in there, he left to go back to Henry's house. He locked the van and went to go back. When he went inside Henry's house, he could hear the cries of Evan in the room. He heard the cries of Evan. He thought Evan was dead. So he rolled his eyes, like, oh my god, this fucking crybaby. He rolled his eyes and opened the door. He saw Henry on the floor with Charlie in his arms. Henry was holding her, trying his best to make her feel better because he didn't have anything in the room to take out her remnant. And when he woke up from when he passed out, he immediately went to Charlie, trying to make her feel better after everything William did to her to torture her. As William walked in, he kicked Henry again. He loves to just kick Henry, dude, and took Evan with him. After he spotted Evan, which he thought died, he took Evan with him and locked the door. So now Henry was alone with Charlie, who is crying in pain, and Henry can't do anything about it, and along with Michael's current dead body in the room with them. Okay. Alright, now we're back with Sabrina. I'm sorry I'm talking everything so fast. This is a lot to get through, and I don't want this video to be too long, so. Sabrina, with Brayden. She woke up. She was with Brayden, and when she woke up, she asked what happened. Brayden told Sabrina, that someone named Henry took her to him because Brayden is a doctor, and he wanted to ask Sabrina about if she knew anything at all about who Henry was. Sabrina then remembered. She remembered seeing Michael when she was stabbed. That was the last thing she saw before she got stabbed. So she instantly got up because but she was still a bit weak due to the stabbing. But she got up because she was like, "Holy crap, I forgot about Michael and about what he's doing right now." She still doesn't understand that he stabbed her. He doesn't know if he was the one who stabbed her or if it was someone behind her. She doesn't know for sure because she doesn't believe Michael would do that to her. So she still doesn't know, but she limped out of the door, and Brayden was telling her it would be best for her because, as a doctor, he's telling her it would be good for her if she stayed behind, but Sabrina refused to and left. But hey, Brayden's not going to stop her. That's her life, not his. Sabrina was trying to make it to the Aftons' house, but from afar she could see the house was burning. The house was on fire, so instead she went to Henry's house because Henry was the one who brought Sabrina to Brayden. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. She walked into William. That is a bummer. This is a pretty long clip, a pretty long part. I'm not going to talk over it until after it's played because I'll analyze it after, but this is a pretty long part, so yeah, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry about this, you guys. Don't hate me. Live, laugh, love. Live, laugh, love. We love people, okay? So don't hate me. Once Sabrina was caught red-handed by William, she immediately ran to the door that smelled like rotting corpse because she really wanted to at least peek inside and see who it was before William did anything to her. Because she needed to know who was hurt and who wasn't. She didn't know if Henry or Michael was the one that smelled like death. So she tried to get in, and William put a gun to her head to threaten her because she's alive. She's not immortal. If she gets shot, she's dead. So she felt very threatened. Once Sabrina asked William, because if William didn't want her to go in that room, she might as well just ask, "Who is that inside the room?" William, he said, "I think we both know who it is," meaning Michael. And Sabrina immediately realized, okay, it is Michael, that's confirmed now. William, since Sabrina now witnessed all of this, William has no choice but to lock her in the room forever or to shoot her and kill her entirely. Um, he gives Sabrina the decision: do you want to get shot or do you want to go in that room with whoever's in there if you want to go in there so bad, but forever until you die in there? She just said, "Shoot me. I already know it's Michael. I don't want to go inside." William smiles a bit. He gets his gun ready, and then he pushes her into the room and locks it. He does not do what she wanted. He doesn't want to do what she would prefer because he just wants her to suffer consequences because he assumes that she was working somehow with Henry or Michael, considering that she came inside the house. She knows she's obviously not on William's side. He knows that she hates him, so that's that. Sabrina is now in the room, and she was thrown in, and when she looked up, she sees Michael's dead body. Oh my. Henry looked over and, he reunited with Sabrina. Sabrina saw Henry with the bloody child, Charlie, and Sabrina went over to hug Henry. Henry looked as if his remnant was giving up on him. Henry couldn't think anymore. He was dozing off. He was very close to death, but he couldn't die because it was still in him. But he was like, would you call it half dead? I don't know, because his body was like ready to die, but it couldn't. So he tried his best to help Charlie despite the fact he was close to dying, because this whole thing, he just wants, you know. So Sabrina stayed with Michael's dead corpse for a bit. He looked like he died brutally because he did. She hugged him, his rotting dead corpse. She kept crying. It felt weird knowing he was gone. Michael was gone. Sabrina had asked Henry if he knew anything about what Michael did. I don't know if you can hear the ice cream truck outside, but dude, that ice cream truck, oh my god. It's in like the dirtiest van you'll ever see in your life. And one time I heard it drive by and like the ice cream truck song stopped and played like a notification. So that dude is playing an ice cream track on his phone in his dirty van. He is sketchy as hell. He stays here for like an hour. Our neighborhood is small. So he just stays in this Oh my god, he's getting closer. Guys, y'all think he heard me? Fuck. Oh god. Okay, guys, update. He's still outside, but he didn't come to my house, so I'm okay. Anyway, continuing. Pretend he's not there, okay? I don't know what he's doing here. He's gonna be here for an hour. That's how it is. You're just gonna hear an ice cream track in the background, dance a little bit if you want to. I don't care. Anyway, Michael. Sabrina asked. Oh my god, it's so loud. Please ignore it. Please ignore it. I can't do anything, dude. You don't understand the amount of retakes I needed to do. Oh, he's gone. He listened to me. Thank you. Okay, so, lock in. Sabrina asked Henry if he knew anything about what Michael did or what happened to Michael. How did Michael die? And Henry was just blatantly honest. Henry was blatantly honest. He honestly, he was out of it and he was spaced out, so he couldn't think about how Sabrina would feel after he told the truth. So he told the truth. He said Michael did it mainly because of what he did to you. He wasn't specific about Michael stabbing Sabrina, so Sabrina assumed it was due to the past, like their past relationship, everything about that. She just wanted to die right there, but she couldn't. She was locked in there with Henry and Charlie. So overall, they felt hopeless and weak. They were all locked in there, waiting to die, or at least Sabrina was waiting to die. Henry and Charlie couldn't. They, at this point, lost. You could say they lost. Now, William with Evan went over to the van and brought him to the van inside where Elizabeth's body was. He sat Evan down with Elizabeth's body and made sure he sat right next to her, just to freak him out even more. William took a piece of wood that was inside of the van and closed the broken window so that Evan couldn't escape out. He went out of the van and locked it, kept the keys with him, and headed out. Evan and Elizabeth's body were now in the van. Evan was with Elizabeth, and he didn't know how to react. He didn't know if this is what he wanted, to be alone, away from the family, but at the same time with his dead sister, or if he just wanted to die completely, but he was scared if after death comes eternal darkness, so he was scared about that. He didn't know. He was just he was taking everything in right now. William kept them there. They were useless to him now, considering that he's in control now. He kept them in there for the rest of time and made sure Evan stayed alive because he wanted Evan to face the consequences of even trying to help Henry with his plan instead of him, his father. He locked the door, and as I said, he left. He doesn't care about them coming back to him anymore or staying alive. He is in control now, so it does not matter anymore to him. After this, he heads back to the cameras, taking control once more. I made this little scene thing. I thought it was pretty funny. It's like really short. It's like 30 seconds long, but he heads back to the cameras and he does this little thing. So go and watch it. He just wanted to piss you guys off. I don't know. So back to Cassidy. Remember William saw her in the cameras in the woods. Uh, she looked very excited because she went over to Braden's house and she knocked on the door of her father. She was very excited and actually looked happy for once. She never looked happy, but now she actually seems happy and excited. But when Brayden opened the door, Brayden couldn't see anything. Cassidy forgot that she is a soul. Only dead people, like Henry, he's dead. Only dead people can see her. Her father couldn't see her and closed the door. William was laughing because he knew that Cassidy couldn't do anything anymore. Her love for her family led her to this mistake. She couldn't think about. She forgot that she was a soul and that Brayden couldn't see her because she was so driven to wanting to go back to her family because she hasn't seen them in years. Um, her empathy and love got her to the point where she let go of control for everything. And reminder, she's a kid. She's not that smart. She just knows how to, she just likes to torture William, but she's not the smartest girl in the world. She died at like 5 years old, 6 years old. So yeah. And now William is in control. William won, if you could say that. But we're not done. We're not done yet. So William won when we look at Michael's plan versus William's plan. William won against Michael. But we're not done with this yet, okay? 3 weeks pass. Henry and Charlie and Sabrina are still in the room with Michael's dead body, and William's in control of everything. He's kind of crazy right now. He's so happy about being in control. He's so happy. He, you know, he's just going crazy right now. But reminder that Sabrina, she's not immortal like them. She is alive. So she died. Sabrina died after 3 weeks in the room because of starvation, dehydration, all of that stuff. Henry was stuck in the dark room with Charlie alone. Henry was still in a lot of pain, and so was Charlie. She could barely move. Henry could barely move. They couldn't find any way to take their own remnant out and to finally be at peace. William wouldn't allow it. He had cameras, he could see them, and overall they were stuck. And with Henry barely having any remnant left, he feels like he's going to die, but he's not. But his body feels like it's ready to die, but he won't. Charlie and Henry are stuck with the two dead corpses, Sabrina and Michael, for the rest of their so-called lives, for the rest of eternity. Wow. This also was a way for Henry to be reminded of what he had failed. He failed Sabrina and Michael. He failed for them to have a happy ending. He also failed Charlie. He failed to free her. And he must stay with his mistakes for the rest. His intelligence was not enough because in the end, the greedy do win. Heroes don't only win. That's the sad truth. Hope was lost and evil won again. He had Charlie with him, but at what cost? Because she couldn't talk, she couldn't move, she was just suffering. She was suffering like every single second. She could not rest. This was the worst part for Henry, holding Charlie knowing he can't free her. The door then opened and it is William. He comes in and stares at Sabrina's dead body, then looks back at Henry with Charlie. He sits down next to Henry and has a long talk with him about their past, about how Henry should have listened to him, about how he and William are both alike. They cannot be heroes. They must accept that they are terrible people. William knows Henry had character development. He knows that Henry learned from his mistakes, but he wants Henry to go back to when he was a bad person. He wants Henry to go back to when he was selfish, when he was greedy, all of that. So he keeps reminding him he's letting go of the good stuff that Henry has done. He's only telling Henry about all of the bad stuff he's done, like with Egwin, with how they handled all that situation. Henry can't really listen to him though. He is spaced out. He can't concentrate. His body like keeps passing out, then waking up, passing out, waking up, because it's like he feels like he's going to die, but he can't. But his body's ready to die. It won't. He can't do anything. He can't listen to William and what he's saying right now. He's been in the room with Charlie for three weeks with these two dead bodies. He just wanted to get out, free himself, free Charlie, and then just move on. And before William left the room, he got Charlie and he cut her legs just to bring her in some more pain, brought her back to Henry, headed out and locked the door. So now Charlie was even in worse pain, and Henry had to deal with it, knowing he... Guys, we're almost done. We're almost done. As William went back to the cameras, he saw someone on the floor. It was Grace, his mother. He went over to her and saw there was a note stuck to her. It read, you won, but at what cost?" William knew it was definitely Cassidy that did this, considering that this is William's family, and Cassidy was just trying to go to her family, but she couldn't. So now, Cassidy's putting payback and bringing his mother's dead corpse to him. But if Cassidy went in here with the cameras, why didn't she take the advantage to take control over them again? William. But once William couldn't spot Cassidy and knew everybody was either locked somewhere or dead, he got a moment of realization that he was alone. He had nobody with him. And he then realized that Cassidy brought his dead mother to snap him back to reality, to snap him back to what he brought himself to. He brought himself to loneliness, which is what he didn't want. Um, he he completely his narcissism, if you would say, um, took control of his mind, and his narcissism, his selfishness, everything about him, made him go off track of what he actually originally wanted. He always wants to be the winner. He always wants to. He like I said, he always wants to be the winner because he's narcissist, he's selfish, everything. But he didn't realize that even if he won, it doesn't mean he'd get the ending he wanted, and he didn't. Um, he's now just realizing this, and he then thinks about what would be best for him and his future, because he knows that Cassidy is not in control right now. He knows that if he were to die, he'd go to peace, because if Cassidy's not in control right now, um, she can't give him eternal hell. He then thinks about killing himself, but he doesn't know if he should, because he's scared. He remembers when he was a young adult, he was always scared of death. He was always scared of what comes after death. That was his whole fear. He feared that, especially after the spring lock incident, the first one. He had a huge fear of death. Um, but William also thought about the fact that he would be alone for the rest of time if he weren't to kill himself. He would be just there, not being able to do anything, just alone with his thoughts. And that was the opposite of what he wanted, because as said in like the last video, he never wanted to be alone like this, because the family of his victims, for example, Henry for like before this was in his house alone, suffering with just grief and remembrance of his past mistakes. William wasn't feeling grief, he wasn't feeling regret, he was just feeling fear. He was feeling fear for the future and what's to come for him. He doesn't want he knows he won, but he isn't getting the feeling of accomplishment he wanted to get. So now this is going to be the final scene, and pretty much the final. I'm going to play this first scene, and then after that scene it'll be another scene just going over everything, because there's a little twist at the end. It kind of changes everything. It changes everything. So there's a reason why this is called a blinded reality, and you'll see. So the first part, and then the second part, and then that's the end. So this is the last time you're hearing my voice, so goodbye.